Welcome back to the Cyber Resilience Brief, a SafeBreach podcast. Today, we are dissecting one of the most agile and financially successful cyber criminal groups operating today, BianLian. For many organizations, the question isn't if they're a target, but when. And to dive in deep, we're joined as always by my co-host, our leading offensive security engineer, Adrian Culley. Adrian, let's start with the basics. Who is BianLian and how did they evolve their operation?
Hi Tova, great to be here as always. BianLian is a highly sophisticated, profit-driven cybercrime group that first appeared around late 2021 to mid-2022. The key detail here is their origin. Official government advisories, including one jointly released by the FBI, CISA and the Australian Cybersecurity Centre, explicitly state that BianLian is likely based in Russia with Russian-based affiliates. What's really interesting is, you may think it sounds Chinese and you're not wrong. BianLian is the Chinese phrase for changing face, and in this instance it really is a changed face because they're not Chinese at all, they're Russian.
I have to say, I know we're not supposed to praise the adversary, but that is a stroke of genius. So we know for sure that it is a definite link to the Russian cybersecurity ecosystem, even if they operate as a criminal enterprise. Is that correct?
Absolutely, and their operational history is a masterclass in adaptation. They initially used the classic double extortion model, encrypting files and stealing data. But when the public decryptor was released in early 2023, they showed remarkable pragmatism. They immediately abandoned the encryption component. They realised encryption was slowing them down. Now they focus exclusively on exfiltration-based extortion. They steal your sensitive data, financial, personal client records, leverage the threat of public leaks to coerce payment. They're extremely effective at this, targeting sectors like US critical national infrastructure, healthcare, and professional services.
Let's transition into the mechanics of their attacks, or their TTPs. If they're abandoning complex ransomware, what does their initial breach look like?
Their initial access is often frustratingly simple. Their primary method is leveraging compromised remote desktop protocol RDP credentials. They either obtain these credentials through phishing campaigns or buy them directly from initial access brokers. Once they have a foothold, they exemplify the problem of the modern threat actor by using a lot of living off-the-land techniques.
So as usual, a cost-effective and in general effective way of using tools already present on the victim's network.
Precisely. They don't need to deploy novel signature-based malware immediately. They rely on command line scripting and readily available open source tools to move laterally and escalate privileges. For example, they've been observed using Pincastle to map the entire Active Directory environment and Sharp shares to discover network shares. They harvest credentials by dumping the local security authority subsystem service or LSAS memory, or compromised hosts. And for defense evasion, they use PowerShell scripts to disable antivirus tools like Windows Defender and anti-malware scan interface or AMSI. This blend of native system tools and customized backdoors, written in Go by the way, makes them incredibly difficult to isolate and block using traditional defenses.
Well, speaking of LSAS and compromised hosts, I don't know if you know this, Adrian, but we've recently uncovered 76% of our customers, and our customers are huge enterprises, the very large household name companies in the world, don't use LSAS SPVL to protect credentials and memories. So if you're listening at home, if you have a tool like SafeBreach to be able to help validate these findings, make sure that you have your LSAS protected. Anyway, let's move back to BianLian. Their dynamic adaptation of the way that they've been entering systems and stealing credentials, that is what we talk about all the time with cyber resilience and the challenges with cyber resilience today. If adversaries like BianLian can shift their TTPs faster than we can update our signatures and faster than we can test our controls, we are permanently at a disadvantage. So how can we adopt more of a proactive model to be able to get ahead of the curve?
So reversing the adversary advantage starts with a foundational shift towards continuous security validation. We need to move away from point-in-time annual penetration tests, which are snapshots in time, and embrace breach and attack simulation and adversary exposure validation. BAS and AEV allow us to surgically test our defences against BianLian's 9 TTPs. Specifically, we use AEVs to validate our exposure across 3 critical phases BianLian exploits. 1, initial access validation. We emulate BianLian's RDP strategy by testing for weak RDP credentials and validating if multi-factor authentication or account lockdown policies work flawlessly to block that initial foothold. 2, lateral movement and evasion validation. We need to know if our endpoint detection and response solutions can detect those stealthy living off the land behaviours. Can it catch pin castle enumerating the domain? Can it detect the subtle registry changes BianLian uses to disable Sophos tamper protection, or the PowerShell scripts they use to disable Windows Defender? We use BAS to run these exact emulation scenarios continuously, ensuring our detection rules are firing correctly. And thirdly, exfiltration validation. Since BianLian is all about data theft, we must validate our data loss prevention and network segmentation controls. We simulate BianLian's final step, exfiltrating data using rclone, FTP or Mega, to ensure our controls successfully block or alert on that high-volume suspicious outbound traffic across the network.
So how do you eat an elephant? One bite at a time. And using AAV, that's exactly what we do here with BianLian. We make sure to validate all of the component parts. Adrian, how do we test our entire security ecosystem is resilient against a full end-to-end BianLian attack? Because we know that adversaries are much more than a sum of different steps that they take to be able to enter your systems and access the information they want to access. What do we do with it from a holistic perspective?
So that's where continuous automated red teaming or CART comes into play. CART is the necessary evolution. It's not enough to check if your RDP credential check works and then separately check if your DLP works. BianLian's success is based on the chain of compromise, sophisticated attacks. CART allows us to automatically execute a full multi-stage BianLian kill chain emulation. 1, the attack starts with simulated RDP access. 2, it uses living off the land tools for discovery and lateral movement. 3, it attempts to exploit defense evasion techniques such as disabling Windows security features. 4thly, it establishes persistence via a simulated remote access tool or a custom go backdoor. And 5th and finally, it simulates the exfiltration of sensitive data to a service like Mega or rclone. CART provides the ultimate validation by answering the question, could BianLian complete its objective? By running these full chain emulations continuously without human intervention and safely in a production environment, organizations can automatically identify the critical security gaps that allow the attack to proceed from initial access all the way to impact. This continuous adversarial perspective is how we move from a reactive posture, always catching up, to achieving genuine cyber resilience against sophisticated, profit-driven threats like BianLian.
Well explained as usual, Adrian. Thank you for breaking down the BianLian threat more for us and showing us how continuous validation is essential, not a nice to have, but a must have for today's dynamic cyber landscape. SafeBreach customers and partners, if you're listening, you should be reassured that you have access to extensive knowledge and coverage of BianLian, which we have covered extensively since US Cert Alert AA23136A back in 2023.
That's great to know, Tova. Thank you for your time again today.
Thank you again for being here. And for our listeners, catch you next time. Stay safe with SafeBreach. The Cyber Resilience Brief is a SafeBreach podcast produced by Tova Dvorin and executive produced by Adrian Culley. Sound design provided by Adobe Podcasts. Distribution provided by Podbean and extra support and love from the SafeBreach team. For more information on how adversarial exposure validation through SafeBreach can protect you and your business, no matter where you reside or what industry you're in, please visit us at www.safebreach.com.